Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday. That must mean it's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing on this very staccato intro evening? I really hit the beats, but a very staccato about it, I felt like.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean, using a fancy word, I didn't even. Thankfully, you sort of defined it as you were explaining to me. Like, what's staccato? I had to do a
Yeah.
Google search for it. What's staccato? I don't know
Yeah.
that. I don't know if I catch it though. Yeah, but now, yeah. So you're talking. Is that a percussion related type of thing, or?
Not necessarily.
Uh,
It's music related,
mm,
meaning like
okay.
short, very crisp, right?
Yeah,
That's
because I think I
staccato,
mean, because I used to take drum lessons in college, and I think that's where I remember hearing that word from
Sure.
way
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, yeah, for
It's
sure.
been, that's a long time ago. It's like, oh man, it's kind of way back from machine stuff. Anyways, the long, windy path, no staccato at all with what I was replying to your question.
Yeah.
Um, I'm all over the place, but yeah, I'm doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Hanging in there, man. I'm, just staying busy, working the work, doing the thing. I don't. That's not really a saying, but I'm gonna try to force it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been keeping busy, lot less theater stuff the last week or so. So I've been supplementing that with I saw a couple of movies and
Hmm.
I watched the new Conan O'Brien travel special series
Hmm.
on Max
Yeah.
and just kind of catching up on entertainment stuff. Honestly,
Cool. Cool. Well, we can roll into that and kind of talk about that
yeah,
as we
yeah.
do our stream tonight.
So
So
what are you working on tonight?
let's see here. I will share my screen. And all right, when we last left off, we had Calamity last week. It's getting sent off screen,
Mm-hmm.
and tonight I'm gonna keep working on this shot with the Warhog, doing the run cycle away from camera as far as the positioning, three-fourths away, and I'll be borrowing assets that we have here of a three-fourths away Warhog, and I'll probably turn this into a run cycle tonight as we're hanging out.
Okay, I love it.
That's the evil plan for tonight.
I don't know
So.
that that's evil, but sure.
I just want to be, I always want things to be evil because I think since I was a kid, I used to watch G.I. Joe and Cobra always had the cool stuff, Cobra
Mm.
Commander and the bad guys. So
Mm-hmm.
then I always wanted to be on the evil side because they had the cool stuff, all the cool
Yeah,
toys.
yeah. I would
G.I.
have
Joe had
been.
all the safe stuff.
I always determined my allegiance in GI Joe based on how hot the lady soldiers were.
What?
I, and,
Okay.
and I don't
Yeah.
know the one character whose name I'm forgetting. She had the glasses and she was
Yeah,
in
Baroness.
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 Thank you. She was hot because I do like a pair of glasses. But Scarlet, with the red hair, I'm sorry, man. That just like it did it for me, and
Really?
yeah. So I
Huh.
was I was GI Joe ride or die because of Scarlet.
Yeah, Scarlet. Yeah. Man, I didn't expect to go into a childhood crush debate on
Yeah,
G.I. Joe characters, but yeah, I was more on the side with Baroness. I liked her accent
really
was
fair,
was
fair.
yeah. She had the cool glasses, long black hair.
Mm,
Yeah, she was pretty cool. Scarlet was cool too,
yeah.
but I don't I don't want to. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if you'd call the action figures, but Scarlet's action figure was terrible. Like, was not good.
I'm
Uh,
certain that I had it. I had 1.5 million GI Joes, but
okay.
I don't
So
recall it.
yeah, if you look up Scarlet's action figure, she's nothing like the action figure is nothing like the cartoon, whereas Baroness's was a much more accurate depiction, and that I think gave the one up to Baroness.
Oh, there we go. Wait, no, I'm looking. It's showing all the new ones.
Oh, just type in Scarlet GI Joe 1981. Let me see. I'll
Okay,
even bring it up over here. Let's see,
1981.
or whatever year it came out. Let's see. Scarlet action figure.
Oh yeah, wow, that's rough. That's really rough.
Yeah, 19,
Yeah, you should definitely look
1982.
it up because that does not. Oh wow, that's a rough one.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, there it is. That's the one right here. I have it
yeah
on the
yeah that's
screen
that's
here.
the image
Yeah.
I'm looking at. Yeah.
Ugh, what the heck? It's not even close. And
No,
then you
not
go into
even.
oh, I put 1882. You still got it. But
Oh
then we
yeah, I
got
found it.
the Baroness. If you do Baroness,
Yeah.
1980. I think she came out in 85 or something, or
Okay.
86. Let's see. Way cooler.
Oh,
I
way
mean, look at
better.
this.
But what a
I
difference
mean,
4 years makes, though.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true, but it's not even. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's not
it is
really not
definitely
even
improvement.
close.
I
Yeah.
definitely had all of those.
Yeah.
I remember some of them. I don't remember Scarlet's being that bad though, which is weird. Just I guess it just
Yeah.
goes to my own inherent biases about redheads. I'm willing to forgive a lot.
And
Um,
and maybe you're a paladin at heart. You just want the good guy. You like the good guys. You.
no, it
I
was just
mean,
she had a redheaded hair. That was it. It
oh,
was.
okay,
It's
all
really
right.
not. There's no subtle subtlety
Oh, okay. I
there.
was trying to give you more. Trying to give you more
Mm.
credit to
Look,
your
I love taking credit for
alignment.
things, but it needs to be. I'm more like yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to break down D&D
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
type charts, but
Um,
yeah. I mean, I remember being a kid. I had like the Blackbird. I had
that was a
yeah.
cool vehicle.
Most of those, they're worth so much now, but most of those got thrown away or donated
Yeah,
someplace,
sure,
which is why they're
sure.
worth something because kids they grow up and they're like, oh, I wish I still had those, and then it creates a
And then
demand for it, right?
yeah,
um,
yeah,
but I don't obviously GI Joe's not really a thing that is a part of my geekdom anymore, hasn't been for a very
yeah.
long time, so um, it's all well and good. The ones that burn me though are the Ninja Turtles because
Why is that?
well, because I still like Ninja Turtles, and I still have very.
Oh,
So I had Masters of the Universe and GI Joe when I was very young, right? Like very, very young.
yeah, yeah.
But then when Ninja Turtles came on the scene in the late '80s, that was it. Like I
You were
was,
totally
I was totally in,
hooked.
right? Yeah, and so Masters of the Universe and GI Joe kind of fell by the wayside. But there were some action figures in that era that were remarkably good. Scarlet not being one of them, obviously, but in particular, the Ninja Turtles were excellent.
Oh,
So many
they were
cool,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had some of those too. Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, but I'm still a child at heart. Even now, at my old
Mm,
age, I'm still a child at heart. But
mm,
yeah, I went through the first couple of generations. And we want to get really geeky about Ninja Turtles, but I had some of the original Ninja Turtles had the soft head. I don't know if you
oh
had any
yeah.
of the
Oh,
soft
I
mushy
had the
heads.
ones where you could like put yeah. Oh sure.
Yeah, those are like super valuable because then they started going hard plastic for those after
Mm-hmm.
a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the little nerdy things I remember about Ninja Turtles. But yeah, I had all that first run with Splinter, Shredder.
Mm-hmm.
It was impossible to like. I remember like for a while it was impossible to find Foot Clan
Mm-hmm.
characters. Like they only tried to print the ones that they knew kids would buy. Like April O'Neil was nearly impossible to find. Nobody cared about April O'Neil as much. They wanted just the Turtle Core or Bebop, Rocksteady. I don't know if you recall any of that yourself, but
Of course,
I'm
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I remember those. That was my jam, man. Like Ninja Turtles was my jam, and it's interesting how I got started in it. I did. Both my parents worked when I was really young, so I did daycare
hmm
briefly. For a couple
hmm
of hours
hmm
after school.
hmm
And one day we had a substitute, not really a teacher, but a caretaker
Okay.
who just I don't know really liked me, really took to me for whatever reason. I think
Okay.
her
hmm
daughter was also at the same daycare center, and we got
Okay.
along pretty well.
So
Um,
yeah. So you had an in with management.
yeah, and
Uh,
so whatever. I'm God 8, 9 at most. I'm not
hmm
really thinking about any of this. So the next
hmm
time this lady came and subbed, she actually brought me a present because she liked me so much.
hmm
And that present was a Baxter Stockman Ninja Turtles action figure.
Whoa,
I
you got the. Oh,
I did not know
okay.
anything about Ninja Turtles up to this point. She didn't either. She just picked a random action figure off the shelf and it happened to be Baxter Stockman. For anybody who doesn't know Ninja Turtles, Baxter Stockman is like a giant living fly character. Yeah. He invented the Mousers. He was sort of forced to work with Shredder to develop the Mouser technology for Shredder. But and the reason they're called Mousers is that he originally intended to make a lot of money selling them to like exterminators to kill mice and rats and things of that nature. But nobody wanted his idea. I'm really getting in the weeds on this. I'm gonna go back to the original story. So anyway, I loved the Baxter Stockman action figure, and was like, what is this? I want to know more about it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the coolest sounding thing ever. And then, a passion was born from that.
That's pretty cool. That's a cool origin story. For killing it. So wait, did you transition to watching the cartoons as a result of that?
I did. Yeah. Okay. So, I'm certain, I was too young to really figure out any of this stuff, right? So I'm certain that when I really liked this Baxter Stockman action figure, my parents went out, they bought me a couple more of them. And I'm certain that they figured out when Ninja Turtles was on. And it's not hard to find. It was, Saturday morning cartoons back when that was a thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, they said, "Hey, look, it's the cartoon that you like." I'm filling in the blanks here. And then then that was it. That was all she wrote for a very, very long time.
Wow.
It's interesting. Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, recently I did a deep dive. Hasbro has a bunch of... Hasbro has all of Transformers on YouTube. You can watch the entire series. The original 85 series.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They have season 1 of Ninja Turtles available on YouTube as well. So I rewatched a huge, because the seasons back in those days were like 50 episodes or something insane like that. And so there was it was funny. I think I was doing something for my old job before that ended, dealing with Ninja Turtles or something. And so I was just doing research on them and found that. And so I watched it. And it was crazy revisiting it, how much I had forgotten, actually. Whole episodes, whole characters. I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot about these characters, I forgot about the teenage alien, extra-dimensional aliens.
What were they called? Neutrinos?
The neutrinos. Like the neutrinos. I think you're right. And they drove around in that hover convertible.
Yeah, and it was kind of like retro style, but it was hover convertible type. Yeah, I used to tune out on those episodes. I couldn't stand the neutrinos. I was like, no, I don't want any more screen time to be shared. I just want to watch the turtles do stuff. We're stuck with them. And I think they had high pitched voices or something about their voices.
Yeah. They were like elves. They were kind of like elves. It was weird. But not like cool Lord of the Rings elves. No, they
were not.
But it is funny. Like the characters that I remember were decidedly the coolest ones. Like Slash, the evil mutant turtle, and Leatherhead, the crocodile, and Metalhead, the robot turtle. I remember all those guys.
Was Metalhead a Donatello creation?
Yes, he was.
The origin point? Yeah, he was awesome too, and the action figures were terrific too. It's one of the first lines of action figures where they actually had some sort of, they had accidental respect towards the television show. It actually felt like you actually had the real cartoon characters in hand. Whereas G.I. Joe, you were lucky sometimes. Whatever issue they had of Snake Eyes, sometimes it was cool. His first version was terrible, but you know what I mean. But Turtles always represented with Playmates. I think was the company that made those guys, made the Turtles for that first run. They did a terrific job. And then, oh my God, man, we're going.
Let's do it, man. I mean, I didn't have anything else to talk about tonight. Let's do it. Let's go down.
We never really do.
No, very rarely.
But Playmates put action figures on the map as far as doing commercialized corporate, TV type stuff. They did it right. You remember when the Next Generation came out? There's a whole bunch of action figures for them too.
Oh yeah, I had most of those.
They were done. Yeah. They were done really well too. They were a
Yeah.
little bit more cartoony than, they weren't realistic, but there was enough likeness to each character that you're like, okay, yeah, this is the next generation version of Picard and Data and all those guys. It's so cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, Playmates was legit.
I mean, I will say that I think Kenner takes the prize for commercialized action figures better just because of
Oh,
Star Wars.
yeah, but the figures never looked good.
No, they were always terrible, but I mean, they like
Yeah,
just yeah.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
they were yeah,
I think you're right. I think Playmates elevated the quality
yeah,
of
yeah,
mass-produced action figures
yeah,
based on popular properties. So yeah,
yeah,
I agree with you there. Yeah, I had a
yeah.
bunch of the next generation action figures too, but yeah, definitely um, Playmates. I idolized as a kid because they made the Ninja Turtles action
Yep.
figures.
Same here. I really appreciate it. Like I knew that if Playmates was the licensee on a property, you knew it was
I
going to be pretty
immediately, yeah,
decent.
that's exactly. There were
Yeah.
a few action figures I bought, not because I knew the property, but because Playmates made them. That was the degree of my brand loyalty when I was a child.
Yeah.
But no, I mean they got really weird with it though. They did all. Some of it was really cool. Some of it was horrible. I remember there was a Splinter wind up action figure who actually did. I think they called it a ninja crawl. So you could like wind him up and he would like actually shimmy along the floor. Um, yeah, they had a when the first movie came out, they did a special run of the four turtles inspired by the film, and I will never forget this and it's still frankly cool. They used squishy plastic instead of hard plastic, and so they had like a texture, like a skin-like texture, and so they did a
Huh.
run of those. Those are my favorite. I love those.
Those
Um,
that's the Jim Henson one that he did, the very first one that was doing with the suits and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
Are you
yeah.
talking
The
about that?
original Ninja Turtles from '88 or '89.
Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
And they did like a set of those, um, which I loved, and then they did like weird ones like Firehouse Donatello, where he was
Yeah.
dressed as a fireman for some reason.
Yeah. And they all
Just
had different roles, and they,
yeah, yeah.
policeman Leo, I think.
hmm
Raphael, I can't
One of
remember,
them
and
was a
Michelangelo.
basketball player, but I don't remember which
Okay. Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and um, you know, they obviously they had all of the different the different vehicles and stuff too. So I had the van and I had the blimp, which I broke almost immediately. Um, I don't remember all of the sets that I had. But I do remember they also sold slime. Remember, like they had like you could buy it in the little slime tube, and it was
And that mutagen.
yeah, mutagen. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was It was translucent neon green slime that you could buy, and they had like the mutagen chamber set that you could put people in and pour the mutagen over it, and they would just it would just cover the turtles and whatever. It wasn't anything special, but I remember for whatever reason I didn't have that set, and so I decided to try to make one of my own. And
Okay.
I took an empty 2-liter bottle, and I mean, it was for a kid. I thought it was pretty clever. I tried to cut the top off of it so I could flip the top off, stick it inside, and then you could pour the slime into it, and then the inverse top of the 2-liter bottle would act kind of as a funnel to drip down onto the turtle, which you would put inside of the water bottle, right?
Okay. All right.
Or the 2-liter
Huh.
soda bottle.
That's pretty
And
cool.
yeah, well, unfortunately, this was a great idea, but I did not use parental supervision, and
Oh.
I got out my trusty Swiss Army pocket knife and
Oh,
started trying to
jeez.
cut into it, and went whoop and sliced my finger, and there's no way you can see it, but I sliced right on the knuckle, just like a really deep gash right into
Oh,
my finger,
man.
and I went, Mom, I cut myself, and we got rushed to the emergency room, and I got 3 stitches on my finger, and it was quite a dramatic event. I will never forget it. I have a scar on my finger from trying to make my own Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action playset. Like, that's how devoted I was to Ninja Turtles.
Wow. Can you just imagine if you just a few more steps here or there, maybe some of that mutagen would have slipped into your gaping wound, and you could have been a terrific villain for Calamity Jane or something like that. You know,
maybe.
Eric Studer, mutagen writer guy or something. I don't know. See, that's where I'm terrible. This is where you come in. But see, with your mutagen powers, you can do it. You can just kind of. But here we are. You know.
But
man.
Yeah, I have actual wounds, permanent wounds from my passion for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's pretty cool though. I mean, the fact that you had that much gumption to want to do that's pretty neat. That's the power of Ninja Turtles and how they inspired. You know, they were an inspiration to many a kid growing up with them. And so it's remarkable how they're still around. I mean, I don't think they have nearly as much staying power, trend power as they once did, but the fact that they're still around and they're still inspiring movies, like even the latest one with Seth Rogen writing it and stuff, still cool. It's still a great movie.
It's impressive that it's a property that's 30 or more years old. More than 30 years old, because it started as an indie comic, long before the action figures and the cartoons showed up. It's amazing what staying power it has.
And then even now, I think Kevin Eastman still is working on it. Like, Peter, I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Is it Laird? Okay.
Yeah.
Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman sold the rights pretty much to Nickelodeon, I think, or somebody else. Then they sold it. Nickelodeon pretty much owns it. But now Kevin Eastman's back, helping to write some of the stuff and just kind of having fun with it. But the latest. Well, not latest. It's been a couple years, but one of the runs he had was this thing called Ronin.
Yeah, the last Ronin.
You heard about this one?
I haven't read it yet. I've heard it's great though.
It is awesome. I highly recommend it. The basic context, like the whole story for this one, right?
I don't know anything about it other than people really seem to dig it. That's it.
All right. The only thing I will tell you, because obviously I don't want to spoil it, but it's pretty much the setup. The setup is there's only one Ninja Turtle left.
Right.
And it's about
it's
his
Raphael.
story.
That I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know anything else about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's great though. I read it a few months back. Really enjoyed it. Almost tempted to actually buy the original comic books just to kind of have them stare at me, from a case or something like that. But
yeah, sure.
Again, those days are over. Yeah. But I highly recommend it, mainly because it is the original creator that's had a hand in it, and also had Peter Laird's blessing. Sadly, I think they had a falling out over, obviously it's always the same case, money issues or something.
Yep.
Where Laird didn't want to do something, Eastman did, and then they had a falling out. But yet they're still cordial enough to where at least they got the blessing for this, which is awesome. I mean, it's great. So to me, it's kind of weird, but it's almost like, okay, well, this is officially canon because it's from Laird to Eastman. Even though we watch Marvel movies and they're done by so many creators, and there's so much wealth of really cool stuff that happens to them after post Stan Lee and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, there's some sort of inkling I have whenever the original creators come back to their property and do something with it. I always find that kind of cool. But yeah, it was great to see him return and work on that. So it's cool that they still have some mileage left. They're still working on stuff, but there's a kind of a concern with the last Ronin with how it ends and how is it setting up new stuff. I don't know if it'll have the same magic as the original, but it's okay. I just like the fact they're working on it. So yeah, it's a.
I mean, the last Ronin could also be sort of a speculative one-off, like Old Man Logan or Red Sun, and it just could be an exploration of the property without necessarily needing to be a part of the greater canon. I kind of felt the same way until I started reading about how they're planning to do more stuff post Last Ronin. Okay.
So so it makes me wonder now, like, and that's where again I don't want to get too much of the spoilers.
I've got it. I opened up an Amazon window, and I'll probably pick it up and download it here.
Yeah. It's a quick read too. But the way they set it up is like, yeah, I don't know if this is this if the next like I thought they were gonna leave it alone, but now they're gonna keep going, and of course they are because
I heard
I mean,
they
almost anyone.
optioned it too to turn it into an animated cartoon and an R-rated
And a
animated
game.
cartoon. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and a game, video game, I think is in production as well.
Hmm.
Which I'll gladly play if it's the right studio. Here
I
we
mean,
are being
yeah,
soppy
right,
about it,
sure.
but yeah, if the right game studio does it, I'm in. I'll definitely play it. It's probably gonna be a single player experience, and you just kind of play as Ronan,
Hmm.
doing the thing. It's great. Um, yeah, not many properties like He-Man. For example, Master of the Universe He-Man. Boy, like Kevin, no, forget his last name. Smith. Kevin
Yeah, yeah.
Smith did his thing and got raked over the coals
Oof.
over at Netflix over it.
That was awful. I mean, I don't
Did you
know if
watch
you.
it?
I watched an episode or two and found it
You weren't feeling it?
unwatchable. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
um, it was very modern tropey, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it I don't know. I just thought it was very poorly written. I thought it had a lot of social justice axes to grind, which
Mm-hmm.
got in the way of the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And and beyond all that, the thing that was so frustrating about it to me is that He-Man dies in the first episode,
Yeah, that's a really big mistake. Why
and
would
then
you
he
do
was
that? And
dead for like most of the entire first season. I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
wait, I came back to this. Yeah, okay, sure. The show is called Masters of the Universe, but come on, let's be honest. It's He-Man. I mean, like that's
Yeah,
the reason why
yeah.
I was
It's
watching it when I was a kid.
I was yeah. I thought it was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but maybe not. Maybe the explanation just says Masters of the Universe. I can't.
I
I mean,
don't,
I could
I
look it
don't
up,
remember.
but
Maybe it was He-Man and
yeah,
Masters of the Universe. Irrespective of all of that,
yeah.
it was such a like killing him off in the first episode was like, okay, well, now what, right? Like, you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I get the idea of wanting to kind of make the villain win for a bit to raise
Mm-hmm.
the stakes somewhat, but you
Mm-hmm.
could have like the show's been off the air for God knows how long. You could have picked up and with He-Man dead already, right? Like
Hmm.
he died off screen. We don't need to see it actually happen. You could show it in flashbacks occasionally, but
Mm-hmm.
and then you pick up with it, and and then you deal with in the first episode or two you deal with the consequences of what it's done to the world with his death, and then you bring him back, and then you hit all your buttons, right?
Yeah.
But the way they handled it, I just thought was terrible, and I thought that the writing was awful, and I didn't like any of the characters or what they did with any of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
and I hated the character designs too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. The show was not fun to look at, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It was that kind of like, when they do anime inspired art, but then they don't really
But
understand like what makes
but it's
anime
not
anime.
quite. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was that kind of style, which I just find really ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I didn't find anything particularly redeeming about that show. I just thought it was really bad. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he got raked over. I mean, you weren't the only one. A lot of people raked him over the. I mean, he got nuked over and over again for that show.
I mean, he
Um,
didn't do himself any favors because he got so defensive about it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
was constantly on social media telling everybody that they were wrong, that they just didn't
yeah,
understand what he was trying to
yeah,
do, and he kept
yeah.
making all of these promises that then either he didn't deliver on or were outright lies, right? you know?
So what's sad is like there was some really cool because I was pretty much the same. I was not. I was just kind of watching it, and for nostalgia reasons, I just wanted to watch it to see. And then after a while, I was like, I can't tell if I'm being a curmudgeon, uh, and I'm just holding
Right.
the original series as sacred.
Yeah.
But yeah, that first season was awful. But then there was another follow-up season after that,
Yeah, I didn't watch the second season. I did.
and
I
then and there's
completely
a
pulled the ripcord on season one.
yeah. I don't blame you. I just happened to do it out of morbid curiosity at looking at the aftermath of the train wreck. and what's sad is there's some really nice moments in there where he adds to the lore to the general what is it called? Eternia.
Yeah, Eternia. That's right.
Yeah, Eternia with Sorceress and the lineage with her daughter and all that kind of stuff. And it was really cool. It was like, oh, this is actually pretty neat. Like, I wish there was a way he could have ran with what he did in the second season and sprinkled that in the first season because the first season was like a left turn. Like, none of that stuff that you talk about in the second season is there to help justify even bother watching it. And again, and the second season has He-Man all over the place in it. He's alive again, whatever. Minor spoilers, but yeah, he's there. And it's much better. It's still not good, but it's better. So it's worth if you have a morbid curiosity and want to torture yourself a little bit with enjoying He-Man, some stuff. There's some really cool lore, like that would have been really cool moments. That's why you watch the second season because there are some really cool moments, but there's some really tropey stuff in there too. It's like, God, really, but yeah, it's just it's a missed opportunity, I think, for Smith because I think he just went too hard into just trying to be different, and it just went overboard, I think. And and people wanted to watch it for He-Man. You don't kill that character in the first episode. Like, why? I mean, now, I mean, if we're talking creators room as we're doing here, hanging out. What if we did what if we were in the writers' room, for example? Like, what if we did something where like you do flashbacks of where He-Man's still alive, and you kind of still keep the you talk about you maybe it's a funeral. I mean, this is really boring, but it's a funeral of He-Man. You're like, well, what happened? What happened to He-Man? And then you do like a detective thing where you're kind of watching the demise of He-Man for the first season, but then you slowly bring him back because that's what they do for the second season.
Yeah.
At least you get some sort of. Then you get a fix. Then you just get He-Man in there. Right.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, yeah, philosophically, I don't have a problem with the idea of He-Man dying and then his resurrection.
Yeah.
It was just that the way they handled it, where he's in 5 minutes of the first episode and then is immediately dead for most of the first season, and they don't even address him. They just move on to these other characters, basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
what are you guys doing?
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I get wanting to expand the mythos of some of the other characters, but it would be like, honestly, it would be like the Batman universe without Batman, right? It's just like, you can tell stories that don't necessarily involve Batman, but he is the anchor point of the whole franchise.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was a real mistake moving away from that character because, frankly, none of the other characters in that show are particularly interesting.
No, I mean, they're not.
I
mean, I'll do a shout out for Orko. I always liked Orko.
Orko was the wizard, like the little floaty wizard guy.
Yeah, with the little scarf over his head and the googly eyes and the giant hat. Yeah.
I always preferred Snarf, if I'm being honest, of that sort of like character archetypes.
Really?
I much preferred Snarf. Yeah. But I liked Thundercats more than I liked Masters of the Universe, actually.
Okay, yeah. Which surprisingly they try to getting off topic on Thundercats. I mean, but it's surprising that they have not been able to resurrect that one again.
They've tried a couple of times, and I just don't think anybody cares enough.
Yeah, they don't. Like even at Warner Bros. When during our tenure there, we tried to. There was an animatic done, everything like that. They've done a couple of things where it just doesn't take. I don't understand. I really don't get why. It's pretty cool. The lore's cool. Mumra's a cool villain.
Oh yeah, Mumra's a great villain. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just never took.
Sadly. I mean, they're very similar shows. Masters of the Universe and Thundercats are very similar shows. I just thought that they were. Yeah, I remember liking. Honestly, these are shows that exist so far in my past.
Yeah.
That I have a much more fleeting memory of what they were than I do of other things. I mean, and even Ninja Turtles, where like we were talking about, there were whole episodes that I had forgotten about completely, and I was into He-Man and Thundercats and G.I. Joe before even Ninja Turtles came onto the scene. And because this is a rambling conversation, what's interesting, which hasn't come up that much to this point, is Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
which is another contemporary of that time period. And I liked Transformers, don't get me wrong, but I always preferred the toys over the cartoon.
Okay.
The tactile nature of manipulating the parts
Mm-hmm.
and reshaping them, I thought was really cool as a kid. The cartoon I was not that into, actually.
Huh.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
I love the cartoon. I was all into the
yeah.
cartoon, just like G.I. Joe. It was like equal love to both those properties. That
Mm,
Hasbro happened to have the monopoly on that decade or so, having two of the coolest properties I think,
mm-hmm.
of the 80s. But what's funny about Transformers is they keep reviving that thing
Yeah.
over and over again, and it's still trucking. I mean, so if anything, like Turtles is one, and then Transformers is the other one. I think
Mm-hmm.
they keep generating movies, and once every 10 movies they have a good one. Like Bumblebee was a really good movie.
Bumblebee wasn't pretty entertaining, but then Rise of the Beast was like, I mean, it
I
wasn't
didn't
it
I
wasn't
didn't
the
watch it.
worst Transformers movie I
Yeah,
saw, but it wasn't like great.
yeah. The thing about Transformers though is as long as Peter Cullen keeps doing the voice of Optimus Prime, I will watch it. There's one of the coolest heroic paladin voices of all time is
Yeah,
Cullen's voice for
yeah,
Optimus
I
Prime.
agree. I
It's
agree.
iconic. It's like legendary status at this
Yeah,
point. But
I
even in the
totally agree.
80s, it was amazing, you know? I know on the flip side, for example, we're talking about Master of the Universe earlier. As much as I love Mark Hamill, he'll always be Joker to me. I don't think he was Joker as Skeletor. It
Yeah,
didn't
he
work.
just was
Like the
doing Joker.
miscasting,
I agree.
you know?
Yeah,
He was just scratchier,
it
you
was
know?
just it was a stunt casting, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Mark Hamill is a great voice actor. He's done some really
he's
amazing stuff.
terrific. Yeah,
But yeah, I always, yeah, I 100% agree. I thought that they hired Mark Hamill because of his name and not because of his uh,
yeah, because
whether
of
he
his
was
cachet,
right for
right?
the role, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
And
do, but it does occur to me, and I think this is hilarious. I love the fact that he was hired for his celebrity, not because he played Luke Skywalker, but because he played the Joker, right? Like at this point in history, he is actually almost more famous for his
yep,
portrayal of the Joker than he is of Luke Skywalker, and that I think is really cool, right? Like,
it is cool. I am all on board with that. But, because I'm so angry at Star Wars, I'm happy that he's actually known for the Joker. I loved what like his voice acting in those Arkham games. Like,
mm-hmm,
I mean, I'm so
mm-hmm,
happy that that's what yeah, and in the obviously in the Batman original series, like all that stuff is terrific. Um, yeah, so more power to him for that.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I like how
absolutely.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm glad that the Star Wars takes a back seat because they've completely bludgeoned the Star Wars franchise there anyway. They've lost all.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no credibility left with that
there's
property, in my
none.
opinion.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny how we're talking about so maybe like the other voice actor that was awesome was Skeletor. Skeletor in the '80s. No one's come close to him as an
Mm-hmm.
iconic villain. Alan Oppenheimer. I'm just looking him up right now. I guess. What a voice actor! And then the same thing with Starscream from the '80s
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm.
So and again, I think he sort of kind of cameoed that into Cobra Commander for GI Joe, but it was totally it was totally fine. It worked for both characters. It's one of those very rare moments where I think they both could work. They both
Yeah,
work. Um,
I think it is interesting to me, and this is sort of the unsung hero aspect of voice actors. If especially in the old days, there was like 5 or 6 voice actors that did
yeah,
every character for all of these cartoons, right? Just
yeah,
these absolutely, iconic, historic performances, and they were all done by like 6 people, and it is just
yeah,
it's insane to me, and they get
yeah,
so little respect, outside of the geek community,
yeah.
and it's a shame because the work that they did is
It's
unbelievable, and
it helped shape. It contributed to pop culture that
yeah,
we have today.
yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
And
So
artists now today chase after those artists that help draw, create, voice act.
Mm-hmm.
It
And
is
this
so
is,
yeah.
and I feel like that this is an axe I've grinded before on this podcast. I really, it drives me crazy when and this is constant. It's not like an occasional thing. They will hire regular celebrities to do voices in cartoons,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then they're awful, right? Like 9 times out of
Yeah.
10, because they
don't work.
don't work. They're used to being on screen. They're used to doing things a
Mm-hmm.
certain way. There's a particular skill to voice acting that
Yeah.
so many of these stunt casting that they do, like Angelina Jolie as so and so, I'm like, is she a voice actor? Is she capable of doing voice acting? And the answer was definitively no. I don't even remember what movie. I don't even remember what it was.
I think it was Beowulf, whatever it was.
She was in Beowulf, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think she did the voice of something else in a different movie too.
She just played herself.
And she just played herself, but
yeah,
you know, and and so it always drives me crazy because it's just like, you know what? Rather than casting Chris Pratt as Mario, why don't you cast an actual voice actor to do Mario? And I am certain they would have done a better job. You know.
Yeah, and then we know the answer to this, and this, as we once again rail against corporate media, but yet we work for corporate media. You know, we're stuck in this hypocrisy kind of thing in a way, but still, we can still be angry at it.
Sure.
But yeah, we know why. It's because they put the names up there so people will go to the theater and go, "Oh, look, there's Steve Carell," even though he barely, I love Steve Carell. I'm using the wrong guy.
I will say his performances grew in the Despicable Me franchise.
It was
good. He was good. So
let's just pick on Chris Pratt then, because that's the one where it's like,
and that's always the thing that's most surprising is when they cast celebrities for these roles and then they're actually good. You're like, oh wait, like Jack Black as Bowser. I mean, he saved that movie.
It's awesome.
You know, like terrific. He was phenomenal as Bowser. And Chris Pratt was, he was just Chris Pratt. I mean, he's got one gear, and that's the only thing he's capable of doing. Whether he's playing Andy on Parks and Recreation or Star-Lord or Mario, it's just the same character, And I mean, I'm not watching the Mario movie for the quality of Mario's voice. I'm watching it for all the Easter eggs that are coming at you a mile a second.
Yeah. Sure.
But still, I just think that if you had gotten, I mean, I just imagine Billy West. Right, he does Fry on Futurama. I mean, like, imagine him doing the voice of Mario. Like, that would have been amazing.
Oh, yeah, it would have been great. Yeah.
But they're not going to cast Billy West because you can't put his name above the title of the movie on the marquee.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the thing. We're stuck because I get, on the flip side, you want to you put all this money into this license of having the property and everything else. So you want to make your money back. Well, that's what you got to do, I guess. But it makes me wonder, like, is there anybody else you could cast to play that role and still make your money and make everybody happy? Because it pretty much printed money. I mean, people want to go see it anyway, so why not just, I don't know.
I think it might be the most successful animated movie of all time, actually.
Yeah, it speaks to the power of that property.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason why my entire office is filled with Nintendo action figures, because I am a member of the church. I am a dues-paying member of the church. I tithe at the altar of Nintendo all of the time, and I do it shamelessly. But that doesn't mean that I think Chris Pratt was the right casting for Mario.
No. It makes me wonder though, because I feel like the whole marquee using actors thing really kind of came about because Disney captured lightning in the bottle with casting Robin Williams as the genie.
Oh yeah.
But he's a comedic improvisational actor. He does improv. He does comedy. So of course he's going to do amazing as an improv animated character as the genie, right?
That's a really good point. Because I'm thinking like,
because improv, I'm throwing improv over your way because you're from improv too. But you put it on your feet and like it's fun to animate that stuff. They completely, and then once they made all that money, we should they got the wrong lesson from that, which is put names up on them because Robin Williams is a household name. Put names
Right.
up on the marquee.
Right.
What they didn't realize is they got lightning in the bottle with him.
Yeah.
Do it just just use that same recipe and do it for other movies. You know. I don't know. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were gonna say
No. I completely. I think that you're dead on because I'm trying to remember, if like celebrity casting was really a thing before Robin Williams, because it was a big deal that they got a name for an animated cartoon, and I think you're 100%. You're 100% right about that because it was after that point that they were doing things like casting Jonathan Taylor Thomas as Simba and the Lion King, and you know, and now all of a sudden it was like more important who the celebrity was than the actual cartoon.
Yeah. And then Pixar came out, you know, in the 90s, and they cast Tom Hanks and what's his name?
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen.
They were great though. I mean,
they were great. They had great, but you know why? Tom Hanks is a great comedic actor and/or drama. He has everything.
Yeah.
But he did start out in comedy.
Yep.
And Tim Allen's a comedian too.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Same thing, of course. Again, like Pixar got light in the bottle twice with the chemistry and those actors, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
How well they did, you know.
And then they did. It was so stupid. Hold on. Because they recast Buzz Lightyear for the Buzz Lightyear movie, which was. I watched that. Mm-hmm. I watched that. So my best friend in the world, her son, I'm kind of like her uncle, and so I've seen so many of these cartoons when he was younger, when he was still really into Disney cartoons. Mm-hmm. He's moved on to other things now, but yeah, when he was younger, like every time we'd go over, I'd go and hang out with them. Mm-hmm. It would be like, what's the new Disney cartoon that I'm going to be watching? And we watched the Buzz Lightyear movie, and it was awful. It was awful. It was one of the worst things Pixar has ever done, in my opinion.
We watched it too, and I was just kind of I just watched it. That's all it was. Like, there was nothing else really to say about it. I don't know. It wasn't even memorable. I don't remember a line from it or anything. Yeah.
And they recast Tim Allen with Chris Evans. And you're like,
that's who it was. Okay.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, how boring, right? I mean,
and
like,
it was boring. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think Chris Evans embodies Captain America. I loved all of that. We don't need to go down this road tonight.
Yeah.
But as Buzz Lightyear, I just kept watching the movie going, he sounds wrong. This isn't right. This isn't right. Right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, that whole movie was just so boring. It was so unbelievably boring. And it was like, what was the audience for? Was anybody like asking for this weird, like, weird meta?
I think to answer that is they've gone to the well with Toy Story. What are they on now? 4?
Yeah.
They're making a 4th one, I think.
No, 4 is done. That's the one where they cast.
I can't keep track of them anymore.
Yeah,
it's like they're you know, I hate to say it, but it's diminishing the original first 2. Number 2 was great. Let's just leave it, but they kept going back to the well. You know what? Because they need to print money. Is the thing, right? So. What do you do?
And it's interesting too because Pixar wasn't going to do Toy Story 2 originally. Like their original policy is like, no, we don't do sequels, right? Yeah. And then they got a lot of pressure from Disney to do the sequel, and they did it, and it ended up being phenomenal. I loved Toy Story 2.
If I recall, like I thought they were going to try to turn Toy Story 2 into a direct-to-DVD release.
That's correct.
You know what? We'll put it in film and see what happens. And whoa, it actually did well. Because that was during the era where Disney was trying to do cheap pulls, they would call them. When they would do Bambi 2, because and Lion King 2, and Aladdin, Return of the Joker. Like they were doing all these other weird.
And famously, Dan Castellaneta played the genie in Return of Jafar. Because Robin Williams and Disney got into a fight over money, because it's always a fight over money. But then, and I don't remember what the subtitle was, but Robin Williams reprised his role for the second straight-to-video
what?
sequel.
I didn't know there was another one.
Yeah, there was a third Aladdin movie, and Robin Williams reprised his role for it.
Oh, no.
And it was...
I'd rather not even known. I would...
awful. It was so unbelievably bad.
once you do that, keep carbon copying and
Yeah.
xeroxing. You're not going to get the same quality as the
Hmm.
original energy. I don't know. Well, that's a bummer. Now I'm kind of again more of a curiosity. Now I may want to go watch this weird sequel. I didn't even know about it. I must have
Yeah.
been like just covering my eyes and ears, going, no, 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 it doesn't exist. But maybe now I can go back and maybe stomach it and
I
see.
don't think you're going to stomach it, but at least you'll be able to look at it through the lens of an adult and not a child who's confused as why this is so bad.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, you give me too much credit. I might just end up being the same way.
I mean, maybe you watch and you just love it. I don't know. I remember by the time it had come out, though, I was, I mean, there was a very, very brief window where I was into Disney.
Hmm.
And by saying into Disney, basically what that meant is I liked Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, and Aladdin. Those are the only three
Yeah.
Disney movies I've ever liked.
Hmm.
Disney movies. I liked Toy Story.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of what Pixar was doing up to a point when it was just like, oh, I know this formula. You're just going to keep remaking the same movie over and over again with different graphics. Like that was it.
Hmm.
Um, and so I watched the Return of Jafar, and I watched the third direct to DVD movie, and just you try to convince yourself that you like them, right? As a
Wow.
kid, because it's like you've got kids
Yeah.
love having brand loyalty. Kids love anchoring
Yeah. They
themselves
have
to
there's an
something.
emotional investment. These are
Right.
characters that you. Yeah.
Exactly. And so the
Yeah.
amount of mental gymnastics you do as a child to try to convince yourself that this is something you like. I mean, I look back on it now and I find it kind of endearing, right? Like looking at my child self, knowing in his heart of hearts that this was bad, but really giving it the old college try to like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, no one would ever accuse me of being a Disney fan. But when I was a kid, I did love Beauty and the Beast, that trilogy, Beauty and the Beast, The Little
Yeah.
Mermaid, and Aladdin.
Yeah. They were all masterpieces. All that.
Yeah.
That
I
run
think I
was
think actually Little
incredible.
Mermaid came before Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But by the time The Lion King came out, I was over it though,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
I
Lion
had grown
King
out of
was.
it.
Yeah. Lion King was like. It was like almost critical mass, and like where you started kind of worrying, like, oh no, they're gonna really. And then after that, it never hit.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was
think
like
it they'll ever have that run.
no, and I think like Tarzan was the next one that they did.
Yeah, I personally love
The
Tarzan, but
animation
it
was
was
phenomenal. Like I'd watch that movie
yeah,
on mute, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah,
it's such a work of art, but yet it didn't resonate with people nearly
no.
as much, I think, as other ones. There was Hercules that came out, love the
Oh
design
yeah,
of it,
that's
how
right. I
they
think
approached
Hercules was
stuff.
before Tarzan. That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was good, but it
No, it
wasn't
was.
special.
I mean, James Wood was great as Hades,
Oh, he
um,
was good as Hades. That's right. I
but
forgot about that.
now I guess we're not allowed to like James Wood because he's gone
Yeah,
completely
he has kind of
psycho.
gone nuts. So
Yeah,
yeah,
which
he
is
is.
a shame.
I don't know.
But
Yeah, I love his acting.
yeah, I mean, like
Great. Again, on the screen, it's terrific.
yeah, yeah,
Personal life, all that other stuff. Ah, man, really?
yeah. I know. I
Yeah,
hate it when that happens, but
yeah.
um, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of those movies that '90s era, right? Because I think
Hmm.
Little Mermaid was what, '91.
Yeah,
Um,
either that or yeah, it might have been 91 or maybe 89ish. I don't know.
yeah,
We could
it,
always Google it, but
yeah, I
yeah,
guess,
around there.
yeah. 89. Yeah, you called it. It was 89.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, so that late 80s to early 90s era of Disney movies, I was bought in.
Special.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but that was it though. After that, I just completely lost it.
Yeah, yeah. But that's at least those are always going to be cemented in the history of good stuff for Disney. We'll always have that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always have something that at least kind of set the bar. That's the whole point, right? Right. So, yeah. um,
Oof, wow, we are at an hour, James. Like we really
I know it's
took
kind of crazy.
we took
We,
nothing and turned it into an hour of rambling. That is
yeah.
this was an
Yeah.
impressive night as far as rambling goes. I just want to
Yeah, I
say,
mean, both of us, there are times where, like, you go, man, I'm kind of a little bit more tired than usual. I had an extra beer yesterday or something like that, whatever
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
But yeah, so for whatever reason, we find
But then
ways
we
to
hit
talk
on
about
something.
nonsensical,
Yeah.
just nonsensical rambling, and then we just run with it. And that's kind of funny. What's even, I know it's funnier. I don't know if you were watching on the stream or not, but I actually kind of touched about three different scenes. I was kind of
I
all over the
was
place.
watching you do this. You were jumping around a
Yeah, I
lot,
was
and
like,
so
yeah,
why don't we review this real quick before we call in a night, and let's just see what you've been
sure.
working on.
All right, so this scene here, this is let's see, I'm up to 73. This is her reacting, Calamity reacting to looking around her surroundings. I still have to do the rest of this, but I do have this where she
Mm-hmm.
looks over here and we see the bench. Then she looks to the left and we'll screen left and we'll do that later. Okay, this stuff was already established here. She'll jump high by a chair, and then we have now the Warhog running towards camera, and then boom, knocks her out, and then boom, and we have
Wow.
that. So we have the Warhawk in screen now here, pretty much finished. Running towards camera, finished. Yeah, and her looking to her right, and then that pretty much will build her looking to the left in the maybe next week. I'll keep going on that.
I will say
But
I
yeah,
love the motion blur on the Warhog's front hooves or front legs
oh
as he's
yeah,
running. That's
yeah,
like a great little subtle little detail. Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's working. But yeah, so yeah, we covered a lot of ground tonight
Yeah.
with rambling and animation stuff. So
Brilliant.
yeah,
Excellent. All right.
cool.
Well, I will call it there. Head on over to calamityjane.rocks, and that'll take you to our Patreon site. Please consider subscribing and helping us make this cartoon a reality. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube, which presumably you already have because you are watching this stream. We are also on Instagram at calamityjane.rocks, or rather, sorry, that was not the right one. At calamityjanesalamander is our Instagram handle. You can check us out there. And we will be back next week at the usual Calamity time, usual Calamity channel. So, good night, everybody. Stay safe out there. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.